This is a message from Fox News. My name is Marianne Rafferty and I live in Los Angeles. Gene Hackman and his wife have died. Hackman was a famous actor who won 2 Oscars and also wrote books. They were found in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on Wednesday. Gene Hackman could have left his family and children a lot of money when he died. He had $80 million in income and properties. That's not true though. His last will and testament? It doesn't have Gene's kids' names on it. Not a single family member, just his wife Betsy. His financial advisor is the best person to help him figure this out. Only that this person isn't doing anything. How rich Gene Hackman is, as far as most people know, Hackman did not have a specific person or company managing his money as a financial advisor. It is almost certain that he worked with financial experts, accountants and lawyers though, because estate planning and managing wealth are very complicated. Gene Hackman chose lawyer Michael G. Sutton to be the first person to handle his estate personally after he died, but Sutton died in 2019. After that, Hackman chose lawyer Julia L. Peters as the second person to personally handle his estate's business. People with a lot of money often hire teams of professionals to keep their finances stable, pay as little tax as possible, and plan for the future. Reports on his estate say that lawyers like Peters were very important in keeping an eye on his money, especially after the death of his wife Betsy Arakawa. Lawyers who specialize in estate planning help set up assets in a way that protects wealth and make sure that heirs or beneficiaries have a smooth shift. Hackman made a lot of money over the course of his long career. Hackman made his wealth mostly through acting, but he also tried his hand at writing and real estate. His estimated net worth is $80 million. Because he was skilled and could do many things, he was able to earn high salaries and work on many projects that were both critically acclaimed and commercially successful. This set of circumstances was very important in protecting his financial safety. Hackman's ability to pick profitable projects and make good contracts is a big part of why he is financially stable. He also put his money to good use by buying property in New Mexico and Florida, among other places. His homes, some of which he designed or fixed up himself, were valuable investments that will go up in value over time. Besides playing, he co-wrote a number of books that added to his wealth. He could make extra money by writing, and it gave him a chance to try telling creative stories outside of Hollywood. Hackman's financial choices kept him safe well into retirement, even though he lived a fairly quiet life in his later years. This shows how important it is to diversify your wealth. But it's still a mystery why he left all of his money to his wife Betsy and nothing to his children. What made this happen? No one knows. Maybe a very close friend who is not known. Not much money for his kids. The details of Gene Hackman's will have come to light, showing that his children may not get his large wealth. Some people would say, what a shame. It was reported that Hackman's children were not named as beneficiaries in his will after the sudden deaths of him and his wife Betsy Arakawa last month. Reports say that in 1995, the Birdcage actor named Arakawa as the only person who could inherit his $80 million fortune, leaving out his 3 children, son Christopher and daughters Leslie and Elizabeth. Do you accept this? Hackman, who was 95 years old, wanted his 65-year-old wife to get his money when he died. Sadly though, they both died just a few days apart. If Arakawa had died before him, Hackman was supposed to get her property. Legal papers supposedly have a clause that says Arakawa's fortune will be given to charity if the couple died within 90 days of each other, which is known as a simultaneous death. The couple got married in 1991, but they didn't sign a prenuptial agreement. They also lived in New Mexico, which is a community property state, which made it harder to divide their assets. Authorities found that Arakawa died 7 days before Hackman. Because of this, legal experts say that his children may now inherit his estate under interstate succession rules, even though they were not named in his will. Hackman's children from his first marriage to Faye Maltese, Christopher, 65, Elizabeth, 62, and Leslie, 58, have not talked about this in public at all. Now, there are no simple comments or responses. Legal papers looked at by experts show that Hackman named Arakawa as his only beneficiary in his will, which was last updated in 2005. A lawyer in California said that inheritance rules would likely decide how the estate is distributed if no other beneficiary was named. Hackman's children would have to show that the will isn't valid because Arakawa died before the will was made. Why would he forget about his kids? This was hard for everyone to understand except Hackman himself. Hackman had already talked about the problems his kids had because of his acting job. When he talked to the New York Times in 1989, he said, "As an actor, you become very selfish. I worked jobs that kept me away from my family for 3 or 4 months at a time, even though I had a family." In 2000, he talked to the Irish Independent about the hard times his kids went through, saying, "It's tough being the son or daughter of a celebrity. During their childhood, I couldn't always be with them at home. Also, since they live in California, my success is always a cloud over their heads." Even though they had a rough relationship, Hackman's daughters and granddaughter told him they loved and admired him after he died. They said it from the bottom of their hearts. He was loved and admired by millions of people around the world for his great acting career. But to us, he was always just Dad and Grandpa. We are so sorry for your loss and will miss him a lot. It's usual for famous people to set up trusts to protect their privacy and keep control of their assets, but these choices can sometimes lead to arguments. The details of Hackman's estate plan are still mostly secret, but experts think he probably set up his assets to avoid legal problems and make sure he had enough money. Just guesses. Gene Hackman's choice not to leave his children and family any money has caused a lot of speculation because it goes against the usual way that famous people leave money to their children and family. According to one idea, Hackman, who was known for being very independent, wanted his kids to find their own ways in life without relying on his money. He may have thought that financial freedom and personal success were more valuable than inherited wealth because he had built his business from nothing. He may have wanted his children to have the same resilience and drive that helped him get where he is today by leaving them out of his will. It's also possible that Hackman made this choice because of personal issues, like problems in his family. A lot of celebrities have complicated relationships with their families, and he may have made this choice because of problems he had with them in the past. Hackman's private life has stayed mostly secret, but some people think that he may have grown apart from his children over time. This might help explain why he didn't give them his money, if it's true, choosing to spend his money in a way he thought was more right instead. Giving to charity is the subject of a third idea. People who are very wealthy often choose to give their money to charities, trusts, or causes they really care about. Hackman may have thought that generous causes would be better places for his money to go instead of to his family. He was known to be interested in history, literature, and social problems. It's possible that he wanted his money to make a difference in these areas instead of just leaving it to his children and grandchildren. It's possible that legal and financial plans also played a part. Hackman may have chosen to leave his children out of his will because of estate taxes, problems with inheritance, or worries about bad money management. Some rich people set up trusts or other types of alternative financial structures to make sure their money is handled the way they want it to be, instead of giving it to family members directly. If Hackman had the same worries, he might have set up his estate in a way that fit with his own legal and financial plans. Without hearing from Hackman himself, we will never know the real reasons for his choice. But the ideas behind his choice are related to larger conversations about family, how to share wealth, and how personal values affect these kinds of choices. Hackman's approach to his estate shows how deeply personal legacy choices are. He did things to encourage people to be self-reliant, settle personal conflicts, support charitable causes, and make sense of complicated financial planning. Would you do that to your own family and kids? The start of a wonderful life. Gene Hackman's neighbors in Santa Fe, New Mexico, saw his health get worse in the last few months of his life, and he and his wife Betsy Arakawa stopped talking to their friends and family. Arakawa was last seen at a CVS pharmacy on February 11, 2025. At 5:15 p.m., they went back to their gated neighborhood. She made an appointment with a private doctor in Santa Fe for the next day, but she never showed up. Not long after that, she died at their house from hantavirus lung syndrome. Authorities thought Hackman, who had severe Alzheimer's disease, couldn't deal with her death and didn't ask for help. Later, around February 18, which is thought to be the date he died, his pacemaker picked up an irregular beating. He died of serious heart disease that was made worse by Alzheimer's and kidney failure. On February 26, security found the bodies of Hackman, Arakawa, and one of their 3 dogs after maintenance workers called the police because they were worried about them not being there. It was found that 2 of their dogs were still living. As strange as the conditions were, an investigation was started even though no foul play was thought to have happened. On February 28, carbon monoxide poisoning was ruled out as the cause of death. On March 7, the official causes of death were announced at a press conference. After Hackman's death, his estate asked the courts to stop the release of investigative photos and police body camera video. The only person he left money to was Arakawa in his will from 1995. Her will, on the other hand, said that their property would go to charity if they died within 90 days of each other. A lot of tributes came from the movie business. Clint Eastwood directed Hackman in the movies Unforgiven, 1992, and Absolute Power, 1997. He said Hackman was intense and instinctive, and that he was a great actor and a close friend. He worked with Francis Ford Coppola on The Conversation in 1974, and Coppola praised his skill and complexity. He said he would mourn his death while also honoring his memory.